In 1878, a Greek businessman and amateur archaeologist uncovered the ruins of a palace on the Greek island of Crete. At the turn of the century, site excavations continued, led by British archaeologist Arthur Evans. Evans attributed the discovery to himself and attributed the ruins to the Minoan civilization, named after the mythic king Minos. The palace complex subsequently named Knossos, where the king kept court in ancient myth. In an interesting twist of historical symmetry, Minos was also the name of the Greek businessman who had originally unearthed the site decades earlier. For the next 35 years, Evans and crew excavated the palace complex, the size of which being more expansive and complicated than originally thought. An American, William Stillman, who published businessman Minos' discoveries, referred to the palace complex as labyrinthine in reference to the double-headed axe, known in Greek as the labrys, on the newly revealed walls. Evans found this interpretation intriguing and, supported by the many bull images uncovered throughout the complex, contended that the ruined palace of Knossos actually housed the subterranean vault where King Minos' secret shame did lie. His beastly offspring, the Minotaur, trapped within the crooked lanes of the fabled labyrinth. That's all well and good, but what actually concerns us is what else Evans discovered at Knossos. Specifically, a multitude of clay tablets containing an unknown linear script. In an effort to differentiate this script from the many pictographs also present at the site, Evans called this script Linear B, after the lines that were cut into the tablets. What secrets could such an ancient script hold? Which brings me to this little guy. This is a rune seeker, the protagonist in a little indie game called Tunic. You may be asking yourself, You see, the written language of Tunic is runic, the runes coined Trunic. Are you following me? This script is pivotal in delivering information to the player, with a linear B-sized caveat. You don't understand it. And this is where the fun begins. It is the heart of the adventure and what makes Tunic brilliant. But unfortunately, this is not where Tunic ends. Before diving too deeply into Tunic, we need to wind the clocks back just a bit to 1986. In this year, two little franchises were born. Nowadays, these are household names, but in 1986, these games had yet to become what they would eventually be known for, and the gaming industry, writ large, was still figuring out how to properly communicate with players. Unlike Linear B at the Palace of Knossos, the gaming language was not some lost script to be rediscovered. It was still in its infancy, still being generated, and that's why moments like this exist in these early games.
What in holy hell?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say no one in their right mind would ever be able to rationally figure these secrets out. Many iterations later, the grammar of gaming was still formally evolving. Now, instead of summoning an emissary from some obscure, ethereal nether realm and offering your mortal soul in exchange for the perception to intuit which nondescript wall to bomb, you merely had to pay attention. But this isn't exactly fair. While yes, developers were still figuring out in-game ways to clue players into secrets, there also existed what is now considered an elusive relic of a bygone era: the game manual. The game manual was the crystal ball that allowed gamers a glimpse into the unknown, wide worlds of early video gaming. This is the manual from the original Legend of Zelda game. Not only does it deliver lore, it also teaches you how to play the game. And not just what button does what, but also the purpose of certain items and, quite literally, where to go and what to do. In fact, here's a map of the entire overworld, complete with question marks on particular tiles. As someone who didn't play the first Zelda until the GameCube's Zelda Collector's Edition, you could see how not having the manual would make this game extremely frustrating. Even with the aid of the manual, early games like the first two Zeldas and Metroids were unintuitive and often in spots necessary to complete the game. developers were still figuring out how gamers navigated games and how they would intuit puzzle solving. Not only that, extraneous details like maps and other item or enemy descriptions were put into a manual because the system hardware wasn't sophisticated enough to handle all that extra data. Plus, there was no internet, and part of the joy of gaming was sharing your suppressed murderous intent with your friends in the schoolyard and to wind the gears of Nintendo Power's corporate machine. Luckily, gaming survived these primordial soup days and stepped foot onto the dry land of modernity. The gaming language evolved. Developers learned how to suggest and restrict choice while making secrets more attainable and satisfying. The vast and varied worlds of high adventure and free-ran exploration were perfected. After so much evolution, gaming eventually looped back in on itself. The age of the indie game was upon us, and small development teams were creating modern games that called back to the early gaming era. Cue our little rune seeker, and let's dive into Tunic. Released March 16th, 2022, Tunic is an action-adventure game published by Finji. Its inspirations blend both classic and modern gaming. A top-down, isometric amalgam of old 2D Zelda and Monument Valley, where the world is intertwined like a Metroidvania. Paths wind and reconnect in unexpected places. The camera angle hides elusive shortcuts, which only make themselves known once the thread's been followed from the other end, and locks to strangely marked doors beckon to be picked. Combat plays like a Souls-like game, or so I'm told because I've never played one. It rewards you for patience and pattern recognition, and punishes you for being headstrong or lazy. And then there's the most blatant throwback, the manual. What's so special is that Tunic makes the manual part of the in-game experience. Throughout your adventure, you collect pages of this manual, written predominantly in the unknown Tunic script, and slowly the game is revealed to you. Not just the lore, or the features, or the essentials for navigating the game world, item functions, power-ups, the all-important maps, but it also teaches you how to navigate the manual itself, which is necessary if you want to truly complete the game. Let's mine the depths of what makes the action-adventure game Tunic so great, shall we? First of all, look at this thing. The art direction is immaculate. Some will say it's too cartoony or not realistic enough, but they're troglodytes, and their opinions are unworthy of further scrutiny. The style is understated, simple but effective, managing to be both evocative and mysterious without being either overly muddled or boring. The design perfectly blends an ancient ruined civilization with a future tech world. The feelings of exploration and secrecy are encapsulated well by the music, which also adds undertones of foreboding. That's not the sonic realm's only offering. Let's consider the sound design. This may come as a shock, but I lack the verbal inventory to describe this. Just listen. Now this is the type of blunt force trauma I'm after. Up until this first real boss, you've traversed an elegantly charming, albeit challenging environment. But here's where the sound design soars, in this concussive cacophony of a boss fight. The combat was a standout part of the game for me. At times it surely was frustrating, but it never felt unfair. Yes, it's unforgiving, but it also makes overcoming enemies, especially the bosses, which are some of the best moments in the game, so rewarding. Each enemy is its own miniature puzzle waiting to be solved with patience and an unflinching will. You're parrying, you're dodge rolling, you're inducing vomiting by jamming your sword's cold steel down your enemy's throat, you're committing acts of violence with methods reminiscent of Japanese pornography, your litany of war crimes is immeasurable. And never once did I feel like a particular enemy was insurmountable. I just had to play smart. Here's another thing I love about this game. It's easy to intuit what kinds of items you need to traverse certain types of landscapes. You see tuning forks throughout the world and think, I need some sort of grapple hook. But what you actually need is the tentacled remains of an elder crustacean god worshipped upon the altar of the Frog Lords. You see areas just out of reach and you think you need a jumping ability, but really, you win the hero's laurels, effectively turning into Hyperlight Caesar. This is all good stuff, but I'm underselling the game slightly. Remember that manual I mentioned earlier? At the start, you simply don't have it. In fact, you have nothing, not even an idea about what it is you're supposed to be doing. You're thrown into the game with no pretense, and with all your early interactions being with the unknown Tunic script as you read signs and gather items, and you begin to wonder, what secrets does this ancient script hold? What better way to instill the vastness of the unknown into the gameplay? I love when games let players be guided by the world, not by an explicit tutorial or some other hand-holding gimmick, and this game does it better than most. It's not until you grab that first piece of the manual that the real game unravels before you. The manual itself is cryptic in nature, but it's also a wonder of graphic design, complete with charming scribbles and coffee stains, many of which are more than they appear. The design does most of the heavy lifting because the script isn't really communicating to you. It's the non-scripted portions of the manual that allow you to decipher the game in spite of the unknown script. Because of this, the manual is constantly recontextualizing the game in revelatory ways, and the game trusts that you're smart enough to figure out a path forward even when you constantly prove otherwise. Even so, I rarely felt lost in the action-adventure game Tunic, and when I did, it wasn't for long. Plus, the reward of unraveling more of the manual in the world outweighed any feelings of being stuck about where to go next. These moments were perhaps the best moments I've experienced with a game ever. All these elements combine to make the action-adventure game Tunic a wholly unique experience. In homage to Tunic's manual, I've been peppering this video with clues of my own. Eagle-eared listeners may have noticed me repeatedly referencing the action-adventure game Tunic, 5 times now by my count. This is, unfortunately, deliberate, because in the late game stages of the action-adventure game Tunic, something strange happens. In your playthrough, you encounter the Librarian, a keeper of both great sorcery and great wisdom. In his library above the clouds, he tinkers with Tunic's different devices, pondering secret knowledge, his chalkboards filled with diagrams and scribbled notes. Many of these chalkboards contain allusions to lore you will uncover later in the game. One chalkboard, however, is a bit more peculiar. Is the librarian aware that he is inside a game? Is it possible for one to have and utilize knowledge outside of one's own knowable universe? While this is an interesting bit of the librarian's lore, it was here where the game's first cracks showed. You see, up until this point, the action-adventure game Tunic has been, well, an action-adventure game. But then something shifts, as if an in-game singularity occurred and Tunic became self-aware. Let's run through the rap sheet. The first crime is the Holy Cross, a mechanic introduced at the game's late stages. The Holy Cross is literally the controller's D-pad. This isn't so bad in itself, but what it signals is that Tunic is making a hard pivot from an incredible action-adventure game and becoming a puzzle game. The remainder of the game involves decrypting puzzles using the D-pad's 4 directional buttons. Secondly, Tunic becomes obtuse. To wit, page 47 and 48, these pages communicated 2 bits of information to me. 1. That there is a final treasure, singular. I am searching for one thing, so I think. And 2, inputting the secret spell will get me to the secret gathering place in which I will find this last treasure. But the secret gathering place is actually a puzzle. It's actually 20 puzzles. This becomes clear when I happen upon this spot, and a box is checked. That's one puzzle. Here's one. Here's one. Here's one. This one stumps me for a while because the perspective makes things seem aligned that aren't actually aligned. It was here that I thought I was looking for these particular line patterns throughout the world, and that this could be interesting, so I went off exploring anew. However, this one suffered not only from that same perspective issue, but also from the fact that I didn't know which figures were actually part of the puzzle, so I moved on. But, silly me, things were only beginning to become inexplicable. And not only inexplicable, but worse. Crime 3. Tedious. This puzzle, for example. You see this chunk? And this one? And this one? I know what the game wants me to do. It wants me to fit all the pieces together to form a part of the Holy Cross. But the actual effort to do this, or this puzzle, you maneuver your way up the tower and find nothing, I don't want to write down the path I took to get to the top of the tower. And this?
Surely you jest.
And there are several like this. In the end, and though not a crime per se, I may very well be an idiot. So, I looked up how to do many of the puzzles, including the ultimate puzzle, the golden path. Well, I figured out the key, but then I couldn't be bothered to put it in the lock. I looked up the input, and you know what?
I don't care!
Most of these puzzles equate to a mental circle jerk. I'm not too keen on mental circle jerks. I am keen on actual circle jerks. I find this interesting because I was willing, eager even, to be patient with the combat, but could not muster the same gusto for the overt puzzle solving. Even after all this tedium, Tunic has one more secret left to offer, the final nail, and it's even more cryptic, bewildering, and inscrutable than the puzzles that came before it. Until now, the charm of the manual was that you didn't have to understand the language to figure out what's going on. But Tunic is decipherable, and if you want the final clue to the puzzle, you have to decipher it. That clue, though, too, is obtuse. Here's the game developer's ultimate challenge. How do you make a player feel ingenious without making a challenge so frustratingly opaque that they quit, or that when they do figure it out, they don't feel confused or deflated by the solution? I didn't find the solutions to these obscure puzzles all that satisfying, nor the rewards. I will admit that the Golden Path puzzle is perhaps one of the cleverest video game puzzles I've come across. But once I figured out what I had to do, I couldn't be bothered to actually do it. Perhaps worse than the solutions was the implementation of these solutions. I didn't want to have to get out a pen and paper and make a map for a puzzle at the end of an action-adventure game, especially when that wasn't the game I was playing the entire time up to that point. These final puzzles feel like walking in on two old friends, repeating an inane phrase which sends them into uncontrollable fits of laughter. They're either insane or you're not in on the joke. Like Tunic, Linear B was eventually deciphered. An English architect, Michael Ventris, building off the previous work of Alice Kober and Emmett Bennett, cracked it in 1952, over half a century after Evans began his excavations at Gnosis. Now, I must admit, the last section of this video was a lot of whining. That isn't lost on me. I think if I followed Ventris' lead, had 2 or 3 friends, and we all played Tunic together and puzzled the endgame out with our collective brain power, reminiscent of a time before the internet when secrets couldn't be express ordered, that could have been a transcendent experience. But I don't have friends, and the internet is a poor, some would say worse, substitute. I wanted to fall in love with this game, and I did for almost 12 hours. And then I got annoyed, so I looked things up and thought, really? That's what's expected of me? And I didn't agree. After the first 80% of the game, I didn't agree that what Tunic was now presenting me with was the proper next direction. I thought I was getting a link to the past and ended up with Fez or The Witness. Don't get me wrong, some people love those games, but it's also true that they are not for everyone. Even Jonathan Blow, the developer of The Witness, makes almost this exact point.
Because if right after you did a puzzle, you had to like dodge a couple of monsters or whatever, like Dark Souls style, you have to whatever, you're not really going to be thinking about the puzzle anymore.
I've often seen Tunic described as one of the best Zelda games, or a perfect Zelda clone. And it isn't, because the tail end of it is nothing like a Zelda game. The only reflection of Zelda I see in Tunic's late game is the same thing that plagued many of those early Zelda games. It couldn't shake the vestigial limbs of gaming's ancestral past, the parts that were frustratingly difficult, and not in a get good way, but in a completely obscure way, a way you couldn't possibly figure out without invoking the laws of equivalent exchange and transmutating a portion of your own body in the vain hope of materializing some morsel of a clue necessary to unlock that hidden secret. That's not exactly my idea of a good time. Gaming as a whole didn't crawl out of the slime and ooze of its evolutionary infancy just to slink on back. I feel cheated by Tunic. Even so, I'm overcome by this bizarre feeling. I can't stop thinking about this game. Why? What is the allure of a mystery not completely solved? Why obsess over an unknown that is so obscure, so seemingly unknowable, in the hopes of stumbling upon that one clue to try and blow the whole thing wide open? I can't shake it for the life of me. Even with the disappointment of some of the endgame elements, I can't help but think there's even more to the mystery. Something deeper, more hidden, yet to be discovered. An uber secret, not yet solved. In fact, the Tunic community has been uncovering even more of the game's secrets in the year since it's been out. I love Tunic, and I hate it. I have strong opinions about this game, but I don't have unique opinions about this game. Some people feel the same way about Dark Souls as I do about The Witness. Some people like them both. The cross-section of people who found equal worth in both of this game's styles are probably few and far between, but I think you should play it, even after this decisive and thorough lampooning. Once translated, Linear B was discovered to be a script for writing Mycenaean Greek, the earliest known form of the Greek language, and it predated the Greek alphabet by several centuries. Like Tunic, many of the symbols are syllabic in nature, referencing sounds instead of letters. Others are ideographic, like hieroglyphics, where images represent concepts, not sounds. In an interesting twist of historical symmetry, the prize for solving the Linear B puzzle also wasn't very satisfying. Many of the tablets turned out to be bureaucratic record-keeping, allotments of grain, wool, and sheep. But the ruins of Gnosis still hold many secrets, and one is still up my sleeve. Astute listeners may be asking themselves why Arthur Evans specifically called this script Linear B. The answer is quite simple. Arthur Evans found two different scripts, Linear B and its even more ancient predecessor, Linear A. Linear A has never been deciphered. I've heard good things about Death's Door, and it seems like that may be more in line with the type of game I was hoping Tunic would be. We shall see. In the meantime, walk the golden path and free yourself from the endless algorithmic cycle. Bye-bye!